Hey ratbags, it's Jade. Welcome to a special Grounded video today. I asked you guys where you want to go next. Grounded's not done, not by a long shot. They're going to be having an update later on this year, I am sure, or continual updates that will give us new experiences to try. For sure, the backyard is done. I don't believe they're going to be changing or adding anything to the biomes here. They are feature complete. There won't be any new bugs added to the backyard by looks of things either. They may add some new items and they may add some new cosmetics, build pieces and defense pieces, but the majority of the backyard and its story has been concluded. But that doesn't mean Grounded is done. With an animated TV show incoming, with 3 million players joining in the last 4 months, meaning that it's had 15 million total, anyone that thinks Grounded is done and dusted is quite frankly a bit of an idiot. But hey, we can all be idiots. As you can see in my video, I accidentally left my camera on while I was doing this. So enjoy my head just looking off to the sides. I was going to re-record it, but I decided that time was a bit short, so you'd have to just bear with it this one time. We know from various different kinds of leaks and talk from the devs themselves that I've shown off in countless videos recapping the news over the last year and a half, that they have got big plans for Grounded going forward, and there's so much on their to-do list that they would really like to implement for Grounded. In Adam's own words, the creator of Grounded, the potential is infinite. So today I'm going to run down the vote that I did on my community tab. 10,000 of you guys have voted about where you want to play in the future. I'm going to give my own opinion about some of these areas and whether or not I think they truly will make some sort of appearance. Whether I think they're a good idea and what kind of stuff we could see based on some of your suggestions and my own thoughts. So leave a like if you appreciate this content. Ignore the negative Nellies in the comment sections that seem to thrive on just wanting to say Grounded is done. Grounded ain't done. Grounded is going to carry on soaring to new heights. So number 5 out of the 10,000 votes with only 6% of the vote is obviously the gas station. Now I say obviously because at first glance when you see these cheat commands being used, it's clearly not really a nice place to go and explore. It doesn't look that interesting. You do have to use your imagination a lot more with this one. It would be very hard surfaces everywhere, but when you think about the different types of things you could have, an oil surface biome, leaked oil everywhere, or petrol, or flames, it would be really cool if there was more of a parkour challenge. Imagine a whole biome like the floor is lava. Wouldn't that be something really crazy to have in the game? You could have a rubbish zone, you could have the shop filled with overturned goods, or even inside a small kiosk with food. We might even be able to explore a rubbish or broken down fridge freezer. I think the gas station hasn't got a lot of love because it is hard to imagine, but I do believe the gas station could have potential in the future for something to explore. Would it make much sense in the scope of things? Maybe not. Whatever the story comes up with next, the kids will return in some way, and it looks like they will return by going small again. And for that to happen, it needs to be somewhere where they can't regularly get access, or something that's definitely where it's going to be a bit harder. A public gas station, you might as well just go over as a proper adult size or large size kid and you'd still be able to mooch around and find out stuff that was going on. But what if it was tunnels leading underneath a complex network? Not to mention maybe certain sections of the gas garage. What if it was more of an actual garage than just a gas station where there was cars being worked on? We could finally have a junkyard scrap zone, which I've always wanted to see added and Grounded. So mostly positives there. Of course, as I said, it doesn't really flow with the story maybe. Why would we be going to the garage really? Could it be where Omnant have been studying us all this time as well? Has Schmetter set up a CCTV operation coming from the big ball on a stick here? And we have to turn off the power or find the remnants of it? Is he actually brewing something big and massive coming from the power of the gas station? It's a bit of a stretch, I have to say. But yeah, I do believe the gas station could offer some really unique locations and biomes. And if not, I really hope we see some sort of way that we could have a junk zone in the future. Or we could potentially have an oil or the floor is lava. Lots of you guys pointed out you could have all sorts of weirder creatures in the garage as well, more feral ones. You could have plenty of cockroaches running about the rubbish tips too. And definitely would be interesting. But it's such a large playable space as well. You'd have to come up with a real reason why the kids couldn't just keep on exploring. It would have to be revamped massively. So why have you included it in first place? Why do I think that it could have even been a possibility? Well, because it is still pretty prominent. How many gas stations do you know are literally right in a urban zone in the middle of suburbia? Like, it's more of a common thing in England, but I don't know, maybe if you live right in the city, You will have lots of little estates and houses like this, and it'll be more natural, and there are high rises and tower blocks that we see. But to me, the gas station has always felt a bit out of place with the rest of the aesthetic of Grounded. So there you go though, 6% of you guys really can't see the promise in exploring the actual gas station, or certainly other areas you want to go. Next up is new yards, and I actually think this one has got most promise going. It's got 13% of the vote though. When we see the trailer for the start of the game, the cutscene, we're literally coming into the backyard from the neighbours, and the neighbours one looks even more cooler with the skateboard sitting there and all sorts more. If you had another backyard, it would be totally different obviously from the major one, but again it does present some problems with story and continuity. It would be cool to explore another backyard if they had Venus flytraps or tropical gardens everywhere, or maybe they had more different types of overgrown bushes and really more exotic plants. You could have even different types of insects that we wouldn't find in that garden. There could be all sorts of room for making it a little bit more interesting. There'd certainly be a big choice in different types of ornaments as well as structures that we'd be able to climb. Maybe there'd be a climbing frame. Maybe another backyard could have its own vegetable or fruit patch. Imagine exploring amongst giant massive vegetables and stuff that we'd be able to harvest, bringing new foods into the game. And amongst them new foods, of course, we'd have new insects as well attracted to the fruits and the vegetables. What if there was rabbits or other creatures being kept in the backyard more? The junk and debris left from another family. Or what if it's not just other yards? What I did want to actually put with my poll was new yards or the front yard. Now the front yard is something I really think is a big possibility. The front yard would make the most sense in terms of scope and carrying on the story. You could imagine that Wendell had a bunch of stuff going on with experiments still in the front yard. Currently the front yard is kind of small, but maybe that would be perfect size for something which is meant to be a free update. Not a big expensive expansion DLC that you pay for, but just something brand new that will get to keep us playing the game and keep Grounded being played and loved by so many. It would have weird science experiments, maybe continuation of Wendell's stuff going on that he never got to finish, or maybe we would investigate a little bit more about Schmechter. This whole time while Wendell was doing his stuff or gone missing, Schmechter started to set up camp. What if they closed off the zone with them big massive whiteboards? Schmechter's scientists obviously know about this place as they dropped the kids off in the start of the game. What if the front of the yard was a special zone? Maybe this is where you would come to be de-shrunkified. Or maybe they found a way to make it portable and you could be shrunken down and put through special places before you actually go into the backyard. I do think the front yard could offer a lot of potential, but obviously yes, it would have to change. This would all just be placeholder stuff right now. The front yard I think would have to be made just a little bit bigger. So that's my pitch for different yards or the front yard. Potential for having so much more different types of clutter, various different types of landscapes, but it does struggle with story. Why would Wendell be doing experiments in another yard? Number 2 with 23% of the vote is the shed. Now of course we already have gone and explored the undershed environment, and it did offer something compelling and interesting to do. One of the hardest challenges getting through the undershed and obviously facing it off against the Mant. But it always felt a bit weird that we wouldn't be exploring above it. We now know from leaked cut content that they did at one point have serious plans about making the shed something playable. I know at one time I said that I thought this was just a dumping ground for assets so they can quickly move stuff around, and maybe that was a bit of a stupid take. I think yeah, after reflection and looking at it, it's clear that this was really designed as a proper level with the different types of shelving, making it very easy to get across and up to places, and the big finale would be taking on the wasps in the wasp nest in the corner. The big hamster tunnels and stuff, which I always thought were just meant to be a prototype for the ones that we explore in the laboratories in the backyard anyway. They would obviously be a bit more interesting to go through, albeit with no real hamster because we know he's already dead. The potential for maybe gathering a bit more technology with the PC parts in the game as well, and maybe somewhere where we'd be able to go and get more fertilizer and stuff and actually have proper fertilizer in the game with the fertilizer bag on it. To me, the shed is probably the most viable. Out of any places they might want to explore in the future, it makes the most sense to me to revitalise or retune the one that they've probably done the most work on. Now, of course, we don't know they haven't started work on other biomes. We do know that Adam did want the whole team focused on 1.0, and so they didn't really do what a lot of game companies do and have the team starting to do stuff already. But Obsidian have had help. It isn't just 17 people that have made Grounded. They've had a bunch of help from a studio in Ireland called Black Shamrock, as well as another studio somewhere, I do believe somewhere based in Asia. Now some of these may be just there to help with porting, maybe accessibility or Q&A. But whatever, when you look at the credits, there's clearly at least 3 studios being recognised outside of Obsidian for helping make the game. It's not too much of a stretch to assume that maybe one of them studios were the ones that had done some preliminary work on assets and objects to be used in any kind of update. We do know at one point they were thinking of DLC. The game files were in the game, but that got clarified by the community manager by stating that there would be no DLC. Now when you say DLC, to me it's paid DLC. That doesn't mean no update though. Updates and DLC are very different things to me. Downloadable content is something that comes as an extra or an option, but obviously a big free update that adds a new area, that would be guaranteed to just come for everyone. Regardless, they decided not to do that. They cleared up the folders recently, they've deleted the DLC folders. Why didn't it make it to 1.0? I'm guessing they felt like it was just a bit convoluted and a bit too much going on, and maybe it didn't have the same feel as the rest of the game. Grounded at its core is a bug fighting game, and it's about being in the jungles and the underground areas. There are places where we can explore, of course, overground, but the fear, the danger, the excitement usually comes from being attacked by creatures on the ground where you can't really see them clearly. So maybe the thought of having a big open expansive space like the shed, it just wasn't going to be as interesting. Although it does present the opportunity to fly around, maybe use wing gliders, something that Adam's alluded to in the past, that the level designer just wants a good way to have them in the game to actually have some sort of purpose. Not just for the fun of it to get around the yard, but some way that they would be meaningful to actual making a level work. I think the shed is the best bet of when we're going to see a new update come to Grounded. I think it's always been earmarked as something, and the prototypes we saw were just that, maybe a prototype, but they were always destined to be something they would add after 1.0. It makes the most sense as well because it is located directly above Wendell's laboratory, so it would be easy to suppose there was another way to get up to more experiments done by Wendell, or maybe even Schmetter's got his hidden base of operations inside here as well. With his castle being more just where he does his CCTV and obviously the Orc experiment, what if the shed has got something to do with the Humongous? Now that might not mean much to people if they haven't completed the game, or at least completed Moldok's castle, so I'm going to just leave it there. It's for you to go and finish off or look up. But to me, the shed has got the most possibility. It's definitely with the one we've seen actual work put into, and it kind of makes the most sense in terms of story as well as scope. The shed is still relatively small. It's contained, so you could possibly have it separated that you wouldn't be able to take certain things across, that you could have new bugs living in the shed that would make sense and wouldn't actually be part of the backyard, hence why the devs have been so certain they're not adding new creatures to the backyard. The shed kind of lives on its own. So that's what I'm saying. I think it's going to be the shed if we explore something new. I think the shed is where we will go next. But clearly, so many of you guys love Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, or Toy Story, or just love the idea of running around a bedroom filled with toys, or kitchen tops cluttered with food as a small size, because so many of you want the house as the next explorable place. 58% of you, that's at least 5,800 people, want to go and explore the house. And it definitely has potential. The types of bugs and creatures that you guys have mentioned to me seem really fantastic. We could have cockroaches in here. We could have other animals, rats and mice and stuff. But remember, it's got to be about size. They've got to be the right scope and scale compared to us as small creatures. If they're too big like the crow, then what happens then? It just becomes a creature that we don't actually get to interact with much or have much of a use. A lot of you guys would love to explore the house and you feel like it'd be a good fit. Again, we do see from the trailer a shot through a house next door or something's abandoned with the ants eating the cereal. How cool would it be to swim in a massive bowl of milk? Dive in to get resources that have been left at the bottom, maybe sugar particles or the hoops themselves to make weird hoop weapons, maybe? The possibilities are pretty endless. Sinks, washing machines, dishwashers, all ripe for exploring and getting into trouble. Maybe we can turn a dishwasher on and then we have to actually get across. Or while we're exploring the dishwasher, a mini game kicks in and we have to actually get out of the dishwasher before we are cleared to death. These are the kinds of things I think could work really well for the house. Being able to turn oven stoves on, or they're being turned on while we explore, and that feeling of being able to get more resources and just wilder places. Now come the negatives though. I do believe the house is far too large. If we were to explore the house, it would have to be really restricted to just one room, and that would have to be something like a kitchen or just a living room or diner. People in the comments, you guys have said that you'd love to explore more upstairs and see the roofs and stuff, and I like that idea, but realistically, look how long it took them to make the yard as it is. The amount of work that would have to go into making a fully fledged, big massive house, it would be too much. They could have a natural barrier in the form of the steps, or simply just have a shut door leading to the dining room. Maybe it would only be just a cloakroom that we come into, but that would be kind of lame. Unless that cloakroom also was a bit of a storage room for maybe junk or fridge freezer, and that's obviously one of the biggest things that I maybe forgot about, is having a ice biome. It's something I've always wanted to see in Grounded. Having massive ice cubes or frost everywhere, having to make armor that would keep us warm, or maybe using the barbarian set that really not a lot of people love. It would be great, it would be fantastic if some of the armor was protected against cold, not just obviously the sizzle from the sandbox. It's the one thing that's really kind of missing from Grounded's overall survival feel, is having to deal with the cold in some way. So that's what I would love to see. If it did open it up, maybe it could just be the kitchen. The backyard has a back door. Could that just lead directly onto the kitchen? That makes the most sense, with the rest of the house maybe closed up. With more wild experiments littered all over the countertops from Wendell, infuriating his wife before she did the right thing and walked away, it could be right for so much more. But I do still believe it's a big undertaking. But clearly you guys want it. So one thing I'm going to clear up a little bit, and I've put this in comments and I'll do it all in one go here. The reason I don't like the idea of the house, I feel like it would be pretty boring, would be because this would happen. We'd be just exploring massive open spaces with not a lot going on. The lore of the actual deck here is that it's been painted. That's why the paintings are here. That's why there's nothing going on. There's a big sign. That's why you don't see any bugs or anything else. It's just been painted. So imagine a whole house filled with these floorboards. Sure, it could have a carpet, but even a carpet with its fibres would still be way too small compared to what we're used to exploring. The beauty of Grounded is running around in the grasses and the jungle, making it feel really dangerous, not knowing when something's going to attack you, looking out for the rustle of leaves and obviously the grass stalks. Could we have that with some sort of rug? The devs once had a rug in the game. It looked like they was going to add it as a maybe cozy item, but the rug would still be way too small. Even the biggest, thickest shag pile carpet isn't as big or thick as a grass lawn, especially the one that's overgrown like this. And so to me, it would make the house pretty sterile. It would make the house like exploring the deck here or the deck near the shed. Big open space where you can spot danger from a mile away, making it not that fun or exciting. If we were to go inside the house, it would have to be specifically to go onto the countertops to maybe explore big new inventions, or to get in trouble with some of the stuff like I mentioned, like an ice biome leaking out of a fridge door that's open. I just find it hard to believe that it would be that interesting. A lot of you guys want to climb and do parkour and stuff, and I think that's what would end up happening. Most of our time would be scaling big large objects to get to places, and it just wouldn't be as fun or as interesting as the backyard. To some extent the shed could suffer that same fate, and maybe that's why they decided to not use it or do it. To me, the house is actually the least likely option I want to explore in the future. I think a refrigerator could be put in almost anywhere, so as long as I saw that in a future update or patch, I'd be happy. But I've got to acknowledge that you guys want it. You guys really want it. You love the idea of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids coming up across maybe some more experiments set up all over the living room, exploring a giant couch or TV. And yes, it does open up the more opportunity for even more bugs to appear. Lots of different types of house bugs, mayflies and more. So there we go. That's just my thoughts and things. I've probably left some stuff out. If you've got a good idea for any of the locations that I've mentioned, do pop it in the comment section down below. When or if is this stuff going to happen? I don't think anytime soon. Like I said, I think it's actually going to be maybe just one big content drop a year now, with smaller little updates in between. but I do believe it's going to happen. Grounded do have to do a bit of work now and outline exactly what's going to happen with updates a little. Are we going to see updates every 3 months? But you never know what the future holds. We might get a gaming show soon, or they may reveal a trailer showing a brand new expansion. It would be big news, and it certainly would be something they'd want to save for some sort of event, rather than just willy-nilly revealing themselves. It could be the summertime before we see anything like this added, but even if they started it then, or they did it in early access as it were, like an early unfinished biome for us to go and test, I'll be totally down for that. Grounded has got infinite potential, and wherever they go, I'll be happy enough. Let's just make sure we get that fridge freezer biome added, yeah? As always, here with the best Grounded guides, news and opinion. I'll see you at Bags later.